What if I told you that the absolute fastest way to make a man deeply regret losing you is to completely disappear from his life? It sounds like a paradox, doesn't it? You are likely sitting there right now, utterly exhausted by his silence, desperately fighting the urge to send that one final, highly emotional text to make him finally realize your worth. But here is the brutal, counterintuitive truth. Ignoring a man is the only language his ego truly understands. If you want to uncover exactly why he pulled away just when things felt absolutely perfect, and how the no-contact rule completely rewires male psychology to make him crave your attention, you must drop everything and listen closely. In the next few minutes, I will hand you the exact blueprint to reclaim your power. By the end of this video, you will never, ever chase a man again. Welcome to Destiny's Decree. Most women believe that a final, heartfelt message will provide the closure they so desperately crave after a breakup. You might feel an overwhelming urge to explain your pain, hoping he will finally realize the depth of your sacrifice and your true worth. However, a high-value woman must understand that true closure is an internal gift you give to yourself, not something requested from a man. Sending a long-winded explanation often signals a lack of emotional boundaries, which inadvertently lowers your perceived value in his eyes. Instead of fostering understanding, it frequently creates a wall of emotional resistance that hinders any potential for future attraction. From the perspective of male psychology, receiving a novel-length text during a period of distance is rarely perceived as a romantic gesture. When he sees that wall of text on his screen, his primal instinct is to pull away further, as he interprets it as an attempt to control his emotional state. You must realize that men process emotional intensity differently, often feeling suffocated by the very words you hoped would bring you closer together. This is why he pulled away in the first place. The pressure for emotional accountability became heavier than the joy of the connection itself. By refusing to send that text, you demonstrate a level of self-mastery that is both rare and incredibly magnetic. The no-contact rule is your most potent tool because it forces him to face the reality of your absence without the cushion of your explanations. When you stop providing him with the roadmap to your heart, you allow the divine feminine energy to take its rightful place as the observer rather than the pursuer. Silence isn't just about a lack of communication. It is about creating a vacuum where curiosity can finally begin to grow within his mind. He will start to wonder why the messages stopped, why the explanations vanished, and what has changed so drastically within your world. This shift in power is essential, leading us directly into the hidden mechanics of how men perceive distance and the secret of the rubber band effect. It is perhaps one of the most maddening experiences a woman can face. Everything feels utterly perfect, and then, seemingly overnight, he creates distance. You are left agonizing over what you might have said, frantically trying to decipher why he pulled away when things were going so well. The truth, however, is deeply rooted in male psychology. Men do not always pull back because they have lost interest, but because they need space to process the vulnerability of intimacy. In the presence of intense connection, a man's biological instinct is often to retreat to his own world to regain his sense of autonomy. If you panic and chase him during this crucial phase, you deny him the very silence he requires to miss you. To understand this, you must think of a man's emotional capacity as a simple rubber band. For the band to create tension and eventually snap back with considerable force, one end must remain firmly in place, whilst the other stretches away. If he begins to step back and you immediately step forward to close the gap, the rubber band goes entirely slack, completely destroying any potential for emotional attraction. He must be allowed to stretch away to his absolute limit, feeling the stark absence of your warmth, your laughter, and your comforting presence. It is only within this quiet, uninterrupted tension, when he is furthest from you, that the urge to return begins to overpower his need for distance. A high-value woman innately understands this psychological dynamic, choosing to remain elegantly anchored rather than frantically running after a retreating man. She knows that by simply standing her ground, she forces him to feel the full weight of his own absence, shifting the emotional labor entirely onto his shoulders. You must realize that you are not meant to be the anxious pursuer. You are the prize that requires effort to be held. Yet achieving this level of graceful detachment is not about merely counting the days on a calendar. To truly master this silence, we must explore what actually happens within your own energy when you stop waiting and start reclaiming your power. Many mistakenly believe that the no-contact rule is a petty game of manipulation, a childish strategy designed merely to punish a man or force him to crawl back to your doorstep. As a high-value woman, you must rise above such superficial and exhausting tactics. If you are ignoring his messages whilst glaring at your phone, furiously waiting for his name to appear on the screen, you have entirely missed the fundamental point of this practice. True alchemy occurs not when you are plotting his return, but when you genuinely redirect that obsessive mental energy back into the cultivation of your own life, ambitions, and personal growth. This period of silence is, in fact, a sacred reclamation of your own dignity, emotional boundaries, and absolute peace of mind. When you truly understand male psychology, you realize that a man only respects what he cannot easily conquer or disregard without consequence, which is frequently exactly why he pulled away in the first place. You must view your time, affection, and emotional availability as an exclusive private members club. If a gentleman cannot abide by the basic dress code of consistency and respect, his access is swiftly and quietly revoked. You do not stand at the door arguing, you simply close the velvet rope. By gracefully withdrawing your attention, you are actively protecting your divine feminine energy, refusing to pour your precious light into a connection that is currently fractured or unreciprocated. This is not about acting cold or spiteful. It is about possessing such an unshakable level of self-regard that you simply cannot entertain anything less than absolute certainty. Ironically, it is this exact display of immense self-respect that forms the bedrock of genuine, lasting emotional attraction. The moment you truly detach from the outcome, you trigger a profound internal shift that begins to operate on a completely different, invisible frequency. The moment you implement the no-contact rule with absolute purity of intention, a profound energetic shift begins to unfold behind the scenes. When you cease the exhausting cycle of checking his social media, rereading old texts, and waiting desperately for a notification, you immediately reclaim your divine feminine power. In the intricate realm of the law of attraction, chasing a man actively repels him, as it constantly broadcasts a frequency of anxiety, lack, and scarcity. By gracefully stepping back and focusing on your own joy, you stop radiating desperation and instead become a deeply magnetic force, anchored firmly in your own undeniable worth. Within the landscape of male psychology, a man's emotional attraction is heavily stimulated by the unknown, by the tantalizing mystery of a woman whose world does not revolve entirely around his presence. When you stop acting like someone terrified of losing him, you suddenly transform back into the elusive, highly coveted prize he originally desired. He will slowly begin to realize that his silence hasn't shattered your reality. Instead, you are thriving, glowing, and remaining completely unfazed by his absence. This invisible inversion of power makes him question his initial confidence, effectively unraveling the very reasons why he pulled away in the first instance. A true high-value woman operates from a place of supreme abundance, knowing in her bones that whatever is genuinely meant for her will never require frantic pursuit. When you embody this elegant detachment, your silence becomes incredibly loud, creating an irresistible enigma that his logical mind cannot help but attempt to solve. He begins to wonder who is capturing your attention now, or what exciting new endeavors are making you so gloriously unreachable. This quiet, unshakable confidence plants a powerful seed of doubt and intrigue in his mind, perfectly setting the stage for that almost universal phenomenon every woman eventually experiences. It is an almost universally acknowledged truth within male psychology that eventually they almost always return to test the waters. After weeks or months of experiencing the true weight of the no-contact rule, his curiosity will inevitably peak and he will attempt to subtly re-enter your orbit. However, you must be exceptionally cautious during this delicate phase, as his initial return is rarely a grand, romantic declaration of devotion. Often it arrives in the miserable form of emotional crumbs, a late-night "Hey stranger" text, a sudden like on your Instagram story, or a casual, low-effort observation. This is the ultimate test for a high-value woman, a moment that demands absolute emotional discipline and a steadfast connection to your divine feminine core. If you immediately rush to reply with enthusiastic paragraphs, instantly forgiving his prolonged silence, you tragically validate the very reasons why he pulled away in the first place. You signal that your access is cheap and your boundaries are fragile, instantly killing any genuinely building emotional attraction. Instead, you must remain utterly unfazed, treating his casual, low-effort behavior with the polite, unbothered indifference you might offer a distant acquaintance. A woman of true substance requires consistent, undeniable effort, not merely a sudden spike in his fleeting curiosity. If he wishes to return to the exclusive sanctuary of your life, he must step up and earn his place through concrete actions, clear communication, and profound respect. You do not reward minimal effort with maximum access. Instead, you gracefully hold your ground until he offers something substantial and real. When you navigate his return with such quiet, unshakable majesty, you force him to rise to your standard, setting the stage for a connection built on absolute value rather than fear. Ultimately, my dear, the no-contact rule should never be wielded as a petty weapon of revenge. It is above all the ultimate declaration of your own self-love and intrinsic worth. When you courageously step away from the exhausting pursuit of his attention, you finally remember the radiant, high-value woman you have always been. Now, I have a rather provocative question for you. What is the one beautiful thing you are going to do for yourself today to reclaim your divine feminine energy, instead of staring at your phone waiting for his message? Leave your answer in the comments below. I assure you, I read every single one. If this counsel resonated with your soul, do ensure you subscribe to Destiny's Decree and activate the notification bell. Together, we shall master the true psychology of relationships, ensuring you never settle for emotional crumbs again. Until next time, stay anchored and stay magnificent.